At 8:30, a good deed turns sour in our veterinary drama Over the Hillside. But first, Larry Borman takes a look at the month's new releases in Cinema 95.
Hello and welcome to Cinema 95, a show in this month and year of June 1995, all about contemporary films that are being released this month that I have been sent to watch and review for your listening and visual entertainment tonight. My name is Larry Borman. Larry Borman, and this is Cinema 95. Thank you for joining me here. Now, there have been several big films released this month, and they are all with their own particular merits, but I'm going to just go through a few of them today in this film review program and give you a recommendation as to which ones I think that you would enjoy based on a variety of factors: running time, acting, performance, etc. And I'm going to rate these movies in a star system, and the star system is going to be out of 4.5 stars, because I think 5 stars is just too many stars, but 4 stars doesn't seem like quite enough. So 4.5 stars is the top end of the scale, and no stars is of course the opposite of that. It's the low end of the scale. And the films that I'm going to be reviewing tonight include Bridges of Madison County, Smoke, Batman Forever, Pocahontas, the latest Disney cartoon, Apollo 13, and the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So to begin this evening, we're going to take a quick look at Bridges of Madison County, and there's a clip coming up just now. Well, doesn't that look like a lot of fun? Now, Bridges of Madison County is rated 18 and contains graphic sex and violence. So if you are under the age of 18, do be sure to have an adult accompany you when going to the cinema to watch this movie. It is cinema verite, sort of documentary style film, all about bridges in the fictitious American county of Madison. And I found the film's overlong running time and gross misuse of local goodwill to be not really plus points in this film, more kind of a distraction really from the inherent beauty of the architecture of the bridges, but in order to spice things up, I believe the filmmakers have attempted to weave some kind of narrative about some small town, seedy back alley, sex and drugs kind of, gangster cartel business into it. And I think this is really the fault of Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino and those kind of people. That's what audiences want to see in this day and age of June 1995. They want to see sex and violence, drugs and guns and blood and eruptions and things like that. And they're just not interested in a sweet little film about bridges, which is what this was originally going to be before the director got lost in his own ego and has delivered just an appalling piece of tripe, which really steers clear almost 100% of any aspect of bridges or anything like that, which is a real pity, because I thought that the subject material here was rife for exploration, and they've just done an appallingly bad job of this. As I say, overly long run time is this film is about 3.5 hours long, and there's just no need for that. A quick 70 minutes would have been absolutely sufficient. I don't think that this film even had an editor to go through it and take out anything that wouldn't have been interesting, so that's a real shame, a complete letdown, and I'm going to give this 2.5 stars out of 4.5 stars. If I could digress for a moment and compare it to what I think is the award winner of the season, Judge Dredd, starring Sylvester Stallone, I would say that film, if you're looking for blood and guts and violence, etc., then you should go and watch the Judge Dredd film instead. It's much better. I really like that one, and I think you will too. There's a motorbike in it, and there is even a shot of a bridge in it. They don't linger on it too much. It might be a Golden Gate or a Bay Bridge or something like that, I believe. Most of these films are shot on location in San Francisco. San Francisco doubling for the mega city in the Judge Dredd film there. The second film that I will be reviewing for you tonight is a film called Smoke, which stars a young Harvey Keitel, and I believe it's directed by a woman called Jane Campion, and it's essentially Holly Hunter and Harvey Keitel in New Zealand, and they, after I think the death of a family member, inherit a family heirloom that is a grand piano, and I think the film is just Holly Hunter teaching Harvey Keitel to play the piano completely in the nude. And whilst I appreciate the beautiful landscape photography in this film, the gratuitous sex and violence on display I thought were entirely unnecessary and not at all in keeping with what the director was going for. The, again, overlong runtime. This film is about 4.5 hours long. I drifted off about halfway through. I can't really remember what happened in the middle. It's very, very boring. But it is beautifully shot. It's a shame that it's not a snappier film. There are no real action scenes in it, unlike Judge Dredd, which is, if you haven't seen it, it's also on general release right now, and it's got some real snappy zingers in it, and Sylvester Stallone is just a fantastic actor, and a lot of people think that, oh, he's just some beefcake here from a boxing movie, but the man has hidden depths which are revealed in the tenderest moments of the film Judge Dredd, which I would highly recommend. But getting back to Smoke with Harvey Keitel, I would rate this film 1.5 stars out of 4.5 stars. Moving on, the third film that I'm going to review for you is Batman Forever. And let me tell you this, the film goes on forever and ever. I thought it would never stop. It has an overly long run time of 5 hours and 17 minutes. There are 2 intermissions. This new Batman director, Joel Schumacher, you'll remember from the film Falling Down, which is an Andy Warhol style performance art piece. It's an 8-hour film of a man tripping over a paving slab and falling down. It's exceptionally good, and you can view that probably at a museum or something. But Batman Forever, I honestly don't know why they've given this guy the reins to the Batman film franchise. He is an artist primarily, not a filmmaker. His pieces are very thought-provoking and esoteric, but they are overly long, and his fixation with violence is utterly not in keeping with the spirit of what a Batman film should be about. Batman is, of course, a pacifist. He won't cause harm to anyone after the death of his parents, which inevitably leads to his attacks on crime not really working out, because the criminals know that they can really just walk all over Batman, because he's considered something of a soft touch. And these films so far, the Michael Keaton, Tim Burton ones, have not really explored that so much, and this is an even further departure from that theme. It's a very long and tedious film, and it is colourful though. It's got quite a lot of zazz and bazing, and the colour really leaps off the screen at you. And Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey have excellent chemistry, and I think that they should work together on the Fugitive film, which we all are looking forward to soon enough, I'm sure. This film, as I say, is very boring. It's not as good as Judge Dredd, which really is a standout piece of cinema. James Remar is in it at the beginning briefly. The cast is just spectacular. I think there's a Von Sydow in there as well somewhere. It's really just, it's a masterpiece of modern filmmaking, unlike Batman Forever, which I'm going to rate 0.5 star out of 4.5 stars. Moving on, we have the film Pocahontas, which is a Disney cartoon. Like all Disney cartoons, there are undertones of colonial racism and oppression, and it was a great shame that they didn't focus at all on the true life story of Pocahontas when she returned to England and caught smallpox and died. They instead choose to render Pocahontas in this film as a leggy blonde who does lots of sing and dance numbers, and it does put in an appearance by Mel Gibson, who is just one of the actors of his generation. He's a supremely talented individual, almost on a par with Sylvester Stallone, who I may have mentioned, but if I haven't, is appearing in Judge Dredd, which is really just an excellent performance, and I would highly recommend it to everyone to go out and just pile into the movie theatre and the cinemas and buy it on home video when it's released on VHS in about 18 months to 2 years' time, because it's an exceptional piece of work, and I can't wait for it to develop into its own franchise. It's really quite something. The next film is Apollo 13, which I can't really say much about backstory-wise, because I have not seen Apollos 1 to 12. So forgive me if there are any fans of the Apollo series out there. This one was alright. I did feel that it was overly long, at just under 9 hours long, and Ron Howard has really just got to be stopped. He's I liked him in Happy Days, but now that he's making movies of his own, he's just deeply tedious, and I'm not a fan of his work at all, and I really think that he should stick to not making films, but he will keep insisting on doing so. Apollo 13, like their later James Bond films, the James Bond franchise, it began innocuously enough about a British spy who was sleeping with beautiful women, and that was nice. And then after Star Wars, of course, they tried to send Roger Moore into space, and it just became ludicrous. And this, I guess, the first Apollo films 1 to 12 were quite rounded. Maybe they started as this is just conjecture, but maybe they started as interesting, family dramas or something about a boxer maybe, and then they just developed into this, and now they're in Apollo 13 and they've gone to space. It's quite ludicrous, and it is also quite excessively violent for no real reason. Yes, as I say, the earlier films, I don't know what they're about, but if they are anything to do with the boxer Apollo Creed, obviously from the films Rocky, starring Sylvester Stallone, who is also appearing in Judge Dredd, which is, I don't know if I've mentioned, it's an extremely good film. You should all go and watch that instead of Apollo 13. And the last film is The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which I didn't really understand, because it looks exactly like Judge Dredd. They've got all helmets with glass that goes over their eyes, and you can't see anything apart from just their mouths, and you think this is probably going to be a Judge Dredd film, or in the Judge Dredd universe or something like that, because it's all about rangers, not judges but rangers, but there's no Judge Dredd in this film at all. So for Apollo 13, I'd give 3 stars out of 4.5 stars, and for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I'd also give 3 stars, because it leads you on and it is an exciting ride, but ultimately it's unfulfilling because Judge Dredd doesn't turn up. So that concludes Cinema 95. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll be back next month for Cinema July 1995. And in the meantime, just go and see Judge Dredd, because it's a really good film. Thank you for stopping by, and see you next time. Thank you very much for watching my video. If you liked it, please be sure to subscribe. And if you really liked it, why not check out my Patreon? Thanks.